We should do a couple mailbag questions.
Just a few to wrap
up today's show, even though it's not a Monday.
It's funny because the first one I'm going to go to is from like a couple hours before the trade. And it's from at Ruben Germstov, which is very funny.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I respect it.
Do the Flyers bring G back on a bargain average annual value in 2026 for the Cup run with Michkov, and let's sub in Drysdale for Gauthier? It says Michkov and Gauthier. He was traded a few hours later. Let's sub in anyone else. But do you see a world in which, and a couple people have asked me this over the last few weeks.
I've had a couple of ask this as well.
And
I get it.
Do you see a world in which G is ever back?
Yes, but it would have to be under very specific circumstances.
Really?
So here is my, and I actually had a conversation with my friends about that. A friend of mine about this last night. The thing with bringing Giroux back now and why it would not happen, like I know that there are going to be people on social media like Ottawa sucks, trade for G, get him back, we're good again, let's supercharge this.
He's home.
The reason why they won't, it's not even that Giroux doesn't want it. It's not even that Ottawa wouldn't be willing to do it. I do not think the Flyers would be interested for this reason. One of the reasons why, after they traded Giroux, they did not actively pursue bringing him back in free agency. Because I think Giroux, I do not know for a fact if he would have done it, but I think he would have at least been open to the idea.
Timeline-wise, he would have accepted a trade to somewhere other than Florida if Chuck Fletcher gave him the assurance he would bring him back. Since he was not given that assurance, he said, well, fuck you, I'm only going to Florida.
Yeah, I can't confirm one way or the other whether that's true, but I know that was the rumor. I do believe, based on what I've heard, that Giroux would have been open to the idea of coming back that summer. The Flyers made it clear that he just wasn't in the cards, so he went to Ottawa. Maybe he would have went to Ottawa anyway, but it at least would have been a decision for Giroux to make had the Flyers made an offer comparable to the one Ottawa made. I think the reason why the Flyers were iffy on it, you could say, well, it's because Chuck Fletcher's an idiot, and like you're certainly free to believe that. But I think the way they looked at it was, it's not even that they thought Giroux was a bad leader and that he was the reason for the problems in the room and everything like that. But they believed that if Giroux came back, there would never be a reason for anyone else to step up into a leadership role because everyone would just naturally defer to Giroux because it's Giroux's team. He's a legend. He's, a borderline hockey Hall of Famer, definitely a Flyers Hall of Famer, almost certainly going to get his number retired at some point. And I still think we are close enough to Giroux's exit that if you were to trade for Giroux again and bring him back in a month, that guys like Lawton and Konechny and Sanheim and even Couturier, who are stepping into the role of running the room, would immediately step back and say, gee, it's your room again. You're a legend. You're the captain again. He's back. And I don't think that's what they want. They want this room because they really like the way it's developing. They want this room to continue to develop naturally the way it's developed. They want guys like Joel Farabee to step into leadership roles. That won't necessarily happen if Giroux comes back. However, let's say 2 years down the road, the Flyers have made the playoffs 3 straight years or 2 straight years. Now they are a borderline cup contender. Michkov is awesome. And there are very clear leaders. Then I think they would say, okay, we can bring Giroux back in a depth role, and him coming back isn't necessarily going to mean he immediately becomes the captain again. Then he can just be a part of this rather than the guy. I think that is very important to them for Giroux not to come back in and disrupt what they feel like is a really, really positive locker room culture. And it's not a negative against Giroux. It's not that they think Giroux is an asshole and that he's not a good leader and that he doesn't try hard. It's just that they like having the young guys stepping into that role. And they know if you bring Giroux back right now, that could fuck that up.
I would never, I don't accept the premise G was a bad captain because ask Wayne Simmons and he'll fight you.
Yeah, exactly.
But clearly the organizational culture needed a reset. And with him right now, I don't think that would be possible. And I think that's why the question is 2026, you know?
Right.
And maybe that's feasible. I just think
I could see a heroic, when he's 38, 39 and still pretty good, he comes back and it's we got G back. This is great. I can see that.
Because this is his second home, I just see it as he went to the Senators. He's home. This is where people wrap up their career. It's just a weird story. I guess if he comes back here, it wouldn't be that odd. But like, I don't see it. I love G, but I kind of think it's over. Like, I think
it
that
very
time has
well
passed.
might be over. One of the big reasons why I still leave the door open a bit is he is showing basically no signs of slipping.
He's just as good as he was when he left.
At some point, you're like, well, if he's still playing when he's 39, maybe. And he might be, because he's still good.
He is pretty damn good still. He's real close to a point a game. I think last year was the most goals he's ever scored in his career. Like,
it's wild.
He's good.
He's still a really good player. And he's 36 years old.
We all silly like the mayor.